Kia ora. Well, I've gone and done it again. I was in the local pet shop the other day and I saw this tank. Now they don't get many larger tanks in there, so it attracted my attention. The price was right, so I slept on it, researched it, and next day bought it. So what have I got? It's a Horizon 182 starter kit. It comes complete with glass lids, 200 watt heater, 36 watt light, hang-on back filter, and a stand. Now it's a 122 centimeters wide, that's 4 feet, and holds 182 litres, that's 48 gallons. Now it's made by Aqua One, which is an Australian company, and most of the tanks I've got are made by them. And the brackets for the light. This will be the power adapter. And the heater. And broken glass. Unfortunately, this is the second time I've received an Aqua One tank with broken glass. And just looking back at the packaging, the carton is somewhat battered on the top, and halfway down it is split, which is probably the point of impact. Now when I bought this, they told me that it was an end-of-line model, and that was the reason for the discounted price. They also told me that it was most unlikely they would be able to get any more of this particular model. The crack extends right across what is known as the Euro brace. This is an integral part of the structural integrity of the tank, and as it's broken in two, I can't leave it as is. Now I could take the tank back and get a refund. It's unlikely they could get a replacement, as I've already indicated that as far as I know there's no more of this in stock. Plus I know from the previous damaged tank I had that there's no glass company in this town that will repair aquariums. The rest of the glass seems to be okay, so I made the decision I'll attempt the repair myself. Right, back in the fish room. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait. Ta-da! Well, that's where it's going to go. It's going to complete this little fish room. And the fact that it's against the window is not going to be a problem. Yes, I might get algae, but hopefully this will be scaped as a river tank, and therefore algae is probably going to be a good thing. Now I'll have to organise myself and get that glass fixed. That brace runs the full length, but it's got a cross support halfway, so I think I'll get by with just a piece reinforcing the side of the tank. Now the tank came with the light, which is an okay light. It's certainly not a high intensity one, but it should be okay for what I intend to do. And also has a hang on the back filter, But I might keep this in place and take the filter section out and just run it so I've got some more water flow which I can control with an on-off switch. Because my idea is to have on the right a high area, and that flows down to a low area here with some plantings, mainly grass type plants, jungle val, something like that. Now, I still have to decide what to do with regard to my overall planning for keeping fish. I'd like to go temperate, but this room during the summer months stays at around 24 degrees to 27 degrees Celsius, and it will get hotter on hotter days, but it might be just too much for some of those temperate fish. So the other option is to go to tropical. So something to think about. Now, you can't have a river tank without some wood in the river. Now, in the backyard I've got this apple tree, half of which has been dead for a couple of years. And apple is a relatively hard wood and should be safe for the aquarium. So if I cut this off, I should be able to use some of it. Just need to cut it. I should be able to do something with that. Just need to get rid of all the decayed pieces and give it a pretty good clean up. I need some tools to clean this lot. Now that's looking a lot better. I think I'm going to need a larger tank. Or maybe I can just cut the wood to size. Here I am outside next to a goldfish pond, and without disturbing the locals, this should be a good place to soak the wood so that when I do put it in the tank it will not float. I know that we shouldn't believe what we see or hear on YouTube, but there was this tip where you use super glue to bond a cracked piece of glass, similar to car windscreen repairs. So, worth a shot. So I glued one side, allowed it to cure, and then turned the tank over. I'm not going to say anything about how the cap worked loose, and I ended up gluing my fingers together. To effect the repair, I needed to brace myself and brace the brace with the brace, which would be quite embracing. I soon found out that using the applicator gun within the small tank was not easy. As you can see, I'm no expert at doing this. Actually, it's only my second time trying to bond glass together. The first attempt was on my original aquarium, which was broken, and I did fix it, but it didn't look very good. Fortunately, it was in the back of the tank where you couldn't see the workmanship. And on removing the masking tape, there was a nice clean finish. So something was working. I gave the silicone the required 72 hours to fully cure, and then got stuck into sticking the sticky window tint to the back glass. I found this job a little bit more difficult than I anticipated, but I got there in the end, and I'm happy with the result. Later on, I applied some of the same tint along the length of that Euro brace. It did a good job of hiding the crack, but in hindsight was not a smart idea, as water drips from the glass lids onto that brace, and who knows whether it's going to interact with the glue. As for my substrate, well, that's something I need to sort out because I'm going to need to source the various materials, and that might take a little bit of time. Now sure, I could just put a gravel or sand substrate, but that's going to be a little bit boring, and I like a little bit of fun in these projects and hopefully learn something as I go, because I'm not an expert on filtration and the likes. First I need to water test the tank just to make sure that it is watertight and that my brace is doing what it should do, and of course that the floor can hold the weight and that the standing tank is stable enough not to topple. So getting back to the substrate, as I said, I've got two options. One is to create a dirted tank with a deep sand bed where both aerobic and anaerobic bacteria can work on the nitrogen cycle, and of course that's all done in the presence of air or oxygen. Or I can set up a plenum using an undergravel filter, where hopefully I can create anoxic conditions, in other words an area with very little oxygen in, and bacteria that live in those conditions can break down any remaining oxygen, nitrates, ammonia, nitrites, etc., and convert it to non-toxic nitrogen gas, which can safely disperse into the room. Now, I'm not an expert on any of these things, so if you don't know about these things, then perhaps do your own research. One valuable resource I did find was a YouTuber using the name of Jay's Aquarium. He's got the ability to explain the science behind aquariums in a very easy to understand manner. Well worth checking out. Another YouTuber using the name Dr. Novak has produced a number of videos on the use of plenums, and Father Fish has also done a number of videos on the deep bed filtration method. The tank passed all of my tests, and I was interested to note how the corner brackets support the weight of the tank. I had also installed a wooden brace right at the top of the stand, which you can probably make out. That's because the finished project will have a considerable amount of weight, and I didn't want to risk anything failing. I have to hope that the 6mm glass is up to the task. So this is the Aqua One hang-on back that was supplied with the tank. Now I've just added this extension here because I wanted to take in water further down the tank from where it was going to come out. So that would not normally be there. There would be extensions, and there's also a skimmer which can fit on there. I'll just take off that part. And inside it's got something like the bio balls. This plastic has a multitude of surface area, and that can build up your beneficial bacteria. And there's also a carbon filter with fine mesh. I don't need that, I wouldn't use it. I would keep it in case there was ever a case I wanted to remove medications from it or something like that. And so what I would do, I would just cut up a couple of pieces of foam and insert them in the back, and the water would flow through the foam, through the bacteria cartridge and into the tank. Let's see how it performs. One issue that I have with the hang-on back is the noise when the lid is placed on top of it. It creates a drone which we can hear in our living area. So if we're trying to read a book or watch a movie, it becomes quite annoying because that noise is above the noise of all the other 5 tanks operating. This is the water level that I wanted to run the tank at. I had the filter on a smart switch, so I turn it on and hopefully it would then start up. The splashing water would add to the river tank realism and increase the water flow, but alas, it won't stop pouring from this height. And I think most filters of this type would have the same problem. I could bypass the actual filter motor and put a small pump on the end of the intake tube. At this water level, it was still struggling to self-prime. Now, I should mention that the extension hose would have no bearing on its ability to lift water. No problem at all self-priming with a full tank. The hang-on back is too noisy to use, and I need that lid on it if I'm to avoid saturating the carpet. So I'm going to have to do a rethink on my overall design for the river. And the major question that I still have is the substrate. Do I go deep bed or plenum? I guess I'll know in a week's time. Hope to catch you then.